I've seen the first 10 seasons of American Horror Story. At least the ones with Evan Peters and Sarah Paulson, and the one between 8 and 10. It's kind of like with a theater group, watching with the actors you know. So when the actors from the familiar seasons start to waver out, I just start to lose interest. That's not even accounting for the spin-offs and other Ryan Murphy-related projects. I am not seeing Dahmer because I am not supporting that stuff. It's hard to say exactly how I got into AHS. It was around the time I watched more TV. Okay, I think part of it is that there were some girls talking of it, specifically how cool it was a connection from an earlier season came back in season 4. So I basically watched it to get some chicks. Something I found while watching this show is, it's not really scary. Horror is something that I have a complicated relationship with. I don't really do scary. I don't prep myself for a scary scenario expecting something to spook me. And while watching this show, I certainly never experienced the spooks. However, I do like to experience something that's at least psychologically challenging. The kind of things that challenge your preconceptions, make you rethink life. I could point to shows where I experienced that. This show isn't even the best case of that, but I could get moments of it. It's tricky doing comparisons of all the weird, zany seasons. It progressively got more ridiculous as it got along and lost a lot of the fun factor as well for me. The way I see it, the seasons I'm most interested in are the first 4 seasons, which happen to have Jessica Lange in them. The Jessica Lange seasons. They are the most entertaining and Lange is always a highlight. It's interesting going from Murder House, seeing the original cast and thinking, dang, most of these guys really only appear in this season. And it kind of stands out for it. And even actors who are more recurring, I could at least see in this context that this intended to be their one role. Then going into Asylum, the switch up is fun. Having Sarah Paulson, who played a small side character in the first season, suddenly stepping up to play a main role. And Evan Peters, who's suddenly playing a good guy. As the seasons went on, it became more apparent who the favorites were. And it became more, oh, it's this actor playing this role. As I described, it's like a theater group. My AHS hot take is I had fun with Cult, at least parts of it. It just felt fitting to have Sarah Paulson play a straight good guy, to Evan Peters' bad guy. And in certain contexts, talking politics could be fun. It's actually wild looking back at early AHS. It was a big plot point in Asylum, that one of the female inmates looked a lot like the Angel of Death, and it really messed with Sister Jude. But in the later seasons, the concept of characters looking like other characters doesn't really play a role, and no one really draws attention to it. It was really distracting in Apocalypse, having actors constantly play different roles and no one draws attention to it. Then there's this one Sarah Paulson character who looks different but is actually the same as another, so it's like, okay, weird season. One highlight with that season though is after Michael Langdon, the causer of the Doomsday, gets run over in the past by some car, which is probably a product placement. Constance Langdon walks up to him. He wants to be taken to the murder house to be preserved with other ghosts, and she says go to hell. One highlight of that season. It's interesting within the seasons, there's often a parallel of an older woman and younger male. Like usually within the respective gender's prime, it's perceived that women are strongest while they're younger, able to best preserve their looks, and men while they're older, to amass their skills and experience. So it's kind of interesting within this show, often focuses the reverse. Like, subverting expectations, showing older women as capable and younger men as the doers. Maybe even a bit of a horror is the expectation being subverted. Okay, so I figured I'd go over a specific experience I had with the show, so I don't ever really cry with any media, like ever. Actually, the whole concept of crying or getting eyes watery with media could be tied to emotional chakras. Like for me, sometimes depending on my social interactions and emotional openness, could determine how capable I am with getting eyes watery or crying. And as well with my abilities to do so with media. Film and show reviewers in general could afford to be more aware of their emotions, talking about or swaying their opinions on media, and maybe put into consideration if they just watched a movie and somehow determine it just has to be the worst thing they've seen. Anyway, when I first saw AHS Asylum, I saw Sister Jude go through it all. She went through the ringer with the guilt of a girl she thought she ran over, getting institutionalized, losing track of time, and I just remember tearing up. And throughout that whole segment where she was freed from the asylum and recovering at Kit Walker's place, I just remember bawling my eyes out. She suffered so much and was finally free. And honestly, I don't think I really had this kind of experience quite like that before and since, where I was just persistently crying over a character. I could really only imagine this being possible for me, where I got a season to know a character. And maybe that kind of makes the show, at least at that point, kind of special. And honestly, in the future, I'd like to cry over more things, Anyway, A little rough season ranking of all the seasons that I've seen. 10, ironically, season 10, double feature. At that point, I just didn't really care. Everything was just unpleasant. 9, Hotel, kind of a drab season. 8, 1984. Didn't even completely take place in 1984. Got a little ridiculous what the character got away with. 7, Apocalypse. Confusing and messy, but got that Constance moment. 6, Roanoke. Got a cool idea with found footage and being meta, but maybe could have gone a little more refined with it. 5, Cult. I guess my favorite non-Jessica Lange season. Certain things just lined up for me, but got boring in the second half. 4, Freak Show. Like a lot of things. Maybe wish I could have focused more on people with actual disabilities, 3, Coven. Like a really messy X-Men thing, and I sort of dig it. 2, Murder House. The original before the actors' appearances got distracting. 1, Asylum. Every AHS season is messy, but this is the one where it works in its favor. I don't think it's great, even though I think it's my favorite of the seasons and has that moment that made me cry. Nonetheless, a lot of highlights. Anyway, that's my retrospect. Hope the current American election goes well, and happy Halloween, y'all.